Okay, I'm out for a ride today, and I thought I'll put a video on YouTube about the bike I ride. I've not done a video in a long time for YouTube, so forgive me if this is a bit rubbish, but anyway, this is a Giant Trance E plus 2. It's the 2021 model. I've had it about probably 11 months now. It's been fairly well used. It's done about 700 miles now, so it's getting used a little bit. So far, it's been an absolutely great bike to own. I didn't really know much about Giant bikes before I got this. I briefly had a Cube, and I love that bike, to be honest, and I was probably going to get another Cube, but unfortunately, due to bike availability, I ended up purchasing this basically, and I didn't actually sort of want it, to be honest. It was just because this was the only thing that was available at the time with a motor that was powerful enough. So yeah, I ended up with this. It's actually got the Yamaha PX2 80 Nm motor in it, but it's like been rebranded and reflashed with different software by Giant, and then they put it as the, if you can really see that, as the Giant Sync Drive Pro, but it's basically Yamaha below it. And to be honest, I love it. I think it's so powerful. It just goes up any hill. It's been a great experience, especially from where I'd previously been. I had a Bosch, and that was only a 50 Nm motor, so this one's pretty awesome. The bike's getting fairly well used. It's getting a bit dusty, and it's got a few scratches in it, but it's still running pretty well. Let's go and look over here. So basically, with this motor, you get nice simple controls. It's got your power up and down. You can switch it on and off there. If I put it on, you can see on this side you've got your battery indicators. I've used a little bit, so it's dropped one, and then you've got your power. I don't know if you can actually see this. You can change through your power modes. So that's that. Brakes on it are pretty good. I don't actually know what they are, but they seem to be lasting. Shifters are, say, they're SLX. I think they're not top of the range, but they're one below. I might get some of this wrong because I'm not a bike expert. It's got quite a good derailleur on it as well, I think, actually, this one. It's got an XT, so that's actually better than the shifters at the top. So it seems to it gets pelted around a lot, hit about, and it seems to be staying tuned in, and it changes pretty swiftly. That works quite well. It's got the Praxis arms that I was a bit gutted about, to be honest, because they look at them, they've all sort of lost their paint, and they did that within the first 20 miles. Paint on these are really poor, but I've upgraded my pedals because the pedals that came with the bike were plastic, and I didn't really like that. Suspension on this is these Fox Float. I've never had a full suspension bike before, but it seems to be doing a good job, and when the bike gets warmed up and you're going down some rougher stuff, it just sort of floats over it, really. It's a bit weird to describe. And at the front you've got your Fox fork. This has been pretty good. It's probably actually one of the reasons when I was looking at the bike, I thought actually I quite like that one actually in the end. Even though I didn't want the Giant, I thought, I quite like the suspension. That's nice and chunky, and it seems to withstand going down the hills really well. It's quite a good bit of kit, that is. I'm trying to think what else there is really. You get your dropper post on it. It's Giant brand. Pretty much, a lot of it is Giant handlebars, Giant wheels. Actually, one of the things I'll say about the wheels is that on my other bike, I've got a buckled wheel. I had to, it was a bit of a problem, but this one, I've pretty much sort of been using the bike quite hard. I'm a bit of a novice, and to be honest, the wheels are perfect still. They're super tough. They're not like, really, I don't think they're really expensive. They just seem to be taking the pounding that they get, to be honest. And I noticed on the higher spec ones, I think they still give you the same rims. So actually, I think the wheels on this are really good. And another thing, actually, when I was sort of comparing the bikes, and I finally made the decision to get this bike, one thing I noticed when you look at the Giant range against a lot of the others, I was looking at the high bike, actually, it was one of the All Mountain 7. You could see that Giant gave you just slightly better value, so you just got slightly better components for about the same price bracket on the bike. So I don't know if that's because they're such a big make they could do that, but that was another thing that sort of drove me towards to buy it, apart from the availability. I was thinking, okay, I'm getting quite a good derailleur here, I'm getting good suspension, you know, the brakes were okay, you know, everything was okay, I'm getting fairly good motor, although it's not the Bosch. And actually I'm so pleased I brought this bike, because I'm actually going to basically upgrade and go to the latest one, because the one flaw with this bike is the weight. Unfortunately, it's quite heavy. You know, being an electric bike, you don't necessarily feel it, and when you're going down a hill and you're jumping, you know, it's not a major problem, but you do notice it. I test drove a Specialized and the Levo, and you know, they took it out of the room and I just picked it up and I thought, wow, that's super light. And then you know, this is like a brick. But I'm glad to see in the 2022 range you've got the advanced one now. It's the carbon fibre, and I think they've corrected that flaw. There's not too much else I can moan about really on this bike. Maybe when I first got it I thought, well, the cube's quite outrageous, like even the high bikes, they look outrageous. This looks pretty plain, you know, it doesn't really stand out. And I thought, well, that's not so good, but I've really grown to like it. I like the almost the curves of the bike. It's quite, the design I think has actually grown on me loads, and I really do like it. And the colour that they got, you know, it's brilliant. The only like 2 design flaws I think on the frame is that round here, I actually had to take the first bike back because the battery, you get dirt and stuff in here I guess, but the battery, it can wobble a little bit, and it actually wobbles and chips off paint around the edge. That's not very good. And it's even done it on this bike, so it's a design flaw where the battery's moving slightly and it's rubbing on the outer frame here and the paint chips off it. So that's a flaw in the design a little bit. I don't know if they corrected that in the newer versions. And then the other sort of flaw with the frame design is this area collects water like anything. You know, if you're washing it, it can't drain anywhere. It's a bit of a shame really. There's just sort of puddles in this area here. So that's a bit of an annoyance. But I suppose that's the three downsides I've noticed with this bike, is the chipping of the paint, the drainage on here, and then the weight that they look like they're corrected with the advanced version. But yeah, I think it's an awesome bike, and if you can pick it up second hand, it's probably a good find, because they go quite cheap really, to be honest, because I don't think people you know, look at Giant that much. Maybe because it's just quite a, you know, a common brand. I don't really know. I mean, that's what I think. Just trying to think what else can I really say. Issues with the bike, I suppose I could talk about that, apart from I mentioned about the paint chipping problem on the first one I got. The shop supplied a new one, so that was great. This one has done it as well. It obviously appears to be a flaw with them. Other problems I've had with the bike is partly where I'm riding at the moment, I think, to be honest. And it actually probably did damage to my bike somewhere over there, because at winter time this is just a bog, and I try to ride through that. It's probably not a good idea. Anyway, the bike has got so caked in mud, and I've actually managed to wear the chain down very, very quickly. So that's been a problem. I've had to change the chain out. I've brought for one of these Golder chains that I think is supposed to be more hardware in, so yeah, I'll give that a whirl and see how that goes. The chain stretched quite quickly as well. That was the other problem. Also, I've changed the chain now to a better spec chain. Hopefully that improves it. And then the other issues is my headset. Say I'm a novice, probably not the lightest person, and probably not the most dynamic on a bike, and it gets hit about a bit, and I'm getting a creak from this area, and it took me ages to figure it out, but I've now figured it out. If I tighten that up, the creaking pretty much goes away, but it comes back fairly quickly. So I should imagine I'm going to have to change the bearings in the front here. It's a bit of a pain, but you know, it's one of those things that happens, especially, you know, it's done a few miles now, and it's not doing miles on a road, it's doing miles in the wild. So it's going to get, you know, it's going to get a little bit loose. It's the nature of the type of bike it is. But overall, highly impressed. Do recommend this bike. If you see them second hand, or you want to get the newer one, I bet the newer one's amazing. I would really recommend it. Oh, one actual other thing as well, I say, the tyres on it, didn't really know anything about these tyres. Not, you know, again, not an expert about anything, but these tyres have been absolutely awesome. I've never had a problem with grip or anything. They are great. And you got the back one. It's getting quite worn now. I have to change that, but they just grip. They just work. They I ride through thistle bushes. I don't, not say don't look after the tyres or anything, but or the bike, but you know, it gets used. Country lanes, thistles, whatever. Never had a puncture. Obviously, it's tubeless. But these tyres are the EXO ones, so that I think they're armoured or something. And you know, with my Cube, I was getting punctures all the blooming time. But this thing, yeah, not a problem. Done 700 miles, no puncture. So whatever this EXO protection is, it works. So yeah, thoroughly impressed with the bike. Highly recommend it. Yeah, hope you enjoyed watching. Cheers, bye. Oh.